I see my girlfriend straddling my cousin on a couch full on making out. Disclaimer, this is not my story time. Because we were inside of a club, there were so many bottles around me. I picked up a bottle and I threw it straight at her back. She turns around and looks at me and quickly gets up. My cousin stays sitting on the couch like the douche he is, and my girlfriend comes up to me, tries to play it off, and just starts laughing. But I was furious. Then she tries to kiss me. I push her and she falls onto the couch. She quickly gets up and tries to punch me in the face. Before I knew it, her and I were just beating each other up and 4 people were trying to separate us. My cousin elbowed some guy by mistake while he was trying to separate us, and the guy started punching on him. It was like a ball of 10 people kicking and punching each other. The DJ stopped the music and the club lights were turned on. That's when I knew I had to get out of there before the cops were called. I mean, I did start the fight after all. I saw Stacy's phone on the couch and I quickly grabbed it. Stacy grabs me by the hair again, and that's when I see the cops show up. Part 3 is up.
Story time about the time I woke up with someone watching me sleep. So it's about 3:30 in the morning, and I could feel my boyfriend like rolling over lots and stirring in his sleep. And he was keeping me up, so I was getting really annoyed. So then I was finally drifting back off to sleep, and then I heard my boyfriend roll over and say, "What the fuck is that?" Which, for the record, is something you do not want to hear in the middle of the night. And this, kids, is where it gets a bit spicy. And at this point, he sat bolt upright, looking over the top of me. So I looked at him, and he was like white. He looked like he'd seen a ghost. And he is staring at this one spot. Then he reaches to turn the light on. And then for some reason, he just dropped it and told me to go back to sleep. But when I tell you, this boy was holding on to me so tight in bed. The next morning, he told me that he'd woken up and there was a lady leaning over the top of me, watching me sleep. She was wearing like an old-fashioned milkmaid's outfit with a bonnet and an apron, and when you went to turn the light on, she disappeared. So at this point, I am royally freaked out. So we went downstairs to tell my parents, and this is where it gets so much worse. Like for part 2.
This girl literally lived a nightmare. A 17-year-old girl was watching TV late at night when her motion detector lights in her driveway suddenly went on. She assumed it was just an animal, so she got up, drew the blinds, and went back to watching TV. Then a little bit later, it happened again. Before she could even react, she looks over and clearly makes out a silhouette of a person right behind the blinds who starts banging aggressively on the window. The girl stands up and goes, "I'm gonna call the cops!" And the figure stops for just a second, sprints to the side door and starts pounding even louder on that, screaming incoherently. The girl runs to the bathroom, barricades herself inside while she waits for the police, and then her worst nightmares come true. She hears glass shatter in the other room. After a few minutes of silence, she opens her door just a crack to get a peek outside, and standing in her living room next to a broken window is some crazy old woman who looks over at her and starts sprinting toward her. The lady comes smashing into the door and starts wailing on it until the police arrive and take her away. She was a lunatic who had escaped her facility.
Storytime of how I found out that my mom was putting our dad's ashes in our food. Yep, our mom would put our dead dad's ashes in our dinner. So basically, after my dad died, my mom showed zero emotion. It's like she really didn't care at all. Like she kind of wanted it to happen. His death was like an unsolved case, and nobody knows how he actually died. And now that I get to think about it, it might have been my mom, but I don't want to jump to conclusions. And if it was her and she sees this video, I don't want to end up like him. Anyways, back to the story. So about a month after he died, she would always post a picture of me and my brother's dinner with the caption, "You'll always be with them." Literally every single night. And honestly, nobody really caught on. All the comments were like, we're praying, this and that. Until one day I was just sitting on the couch and I look over and my mom was pouring something into the mashed potatoes. So I go a little closer and I see her pouring the ashes of my dad into our mashed potatoes. Listen, this story only gets 10 times worse, so like for a part 2.
Part 2, why you should think twice about moving in with your friends. After everything that happened, I knew I needed to get out and start looking for another arrangement. The next night, I came home late after studying with some friends. I went straight to my room, turned on the lights, and almost had a heart attack when I saw a guy laying in my bed in just his boxers. I started screaming and freaking out, and that's when Amy rushed into the room. She said it was her boyfriend's friend that got too drunk when they went out and he needed to sleep it off. I couldn't believe she put this passed out, drunk, disgusting guy in my bed. At this point, I was seeing red and I was about to fight her. But I left to my mom's for the night before I did anything I would regret. That same night, one of my friends sent me a screenshot. Amy had posted in a local Facebook group about how she's looking for a new roommate to replace her horrible current roommate. I couldn't believe that in her mind, I was the horrible one. The next day, I took some friends and packed up all of my things. While I was packing, Amy had the audacity to come into the room and ask me if I was still going to pay for next month's rent. When I refused, she tried to guilt trip me into telling me if I want to keep our friendship, then I need to pay. I told her that nothing could save our friendship at this point and I left. I haven't talked to her since.
Make sure you always verify who randomly adds you on Snapchat, or you might accidentally send a nude to your substitute teacher. We're gonna call this guy James, because that's his real name. And I got a notification one day that James had added me on Snapchat. I guess he added me in the section where you can find suggested friends, but I immediately recognized his name. Even though I was a lot younger, he had went to my high school prior and I had even watched him in a play. I was studying drama at the time and it was just at a local theater. But it didn't take long after James added me for his Bitmoji to start popping up. So eventually I decided to answer his chats. And yes, this man was super attractive, but we really bonded over theater for a couple of days, and then he randomly asked me for nudes. I, not being okay with that, politely declined. And then I straight up got ghosted. And this cycle continued to happen about 3 or 4 times. He talked to me for a few days, bond, and then asked me for a nude or for me to come over to his house. I would decline and then get ghosted again. Weeks later, the cycle happened again, and this time I gave in. I sent him a half nude and he didn't screenshot it, so I thought we were in the clear. After that, he sent a video of himself, and then I didn't hear from him for weeks.
Story time on how my mom threw hot boiling water at my dad. Okay, so boom. My parents been together for 15 years at this point and I was only 14. My parents were only dating for a couple of months and then my mom got pregnant with me. So they ended up getting married soon after. The only problem with that is my mom never really got to know my real dad. He had anger issues, and I'm talking real anger issues. And he refused to go to therapy. Well, I'm sure you guys guessed it. My dad was putting his hands on my mom, and I mean beating her for dumb reasons. And every time I tried to stop it, my dad would literally turn around and beat me too. You would think he would stop for his daughter, but because he would beat me so bad, my mom always told me to stay out of it. Well, one day my mom was cooking and she was boiling some water. My dad came home and seen that she was cooking and got angry. He said that his food should be ready before he gets home. My mom just stayed quiet and he went to go hit her. But this day, my mom was tired of it. So something changed. Like for part 2.
Here's why I left the Creator Fund. I'll preface this by saying that there is no evidence that the Creator Fund lowers views. Regardless, I started to see my own energy deplete in the videos that I made. I used to post once a day and experimented with different types of videos. But then I felt more pressure to hit a certain number of views just to make a small amount of money. I want to make every video count without this pressure. I want to be proud of every video instead of trying to reach a certain quota for myself per week. If you want to support me as an artist, I just started a Patreon and it's linked in my bio. If not, interacting with this video is more than enough. Thank you so much.
Part 2 of my roommate's crazy girlfriend. She stared at me, unable to respond. Then I said, just because I'm gay doesn't mean that I'm into you. Trust me, I'm not the least bit interested in you. She started sobbing and spewing BS, so I kicked her out and told her that she's not welcome anymore for making me uncomfortable in my own apartment. Her and my roommate both left, and he was super pissed at me. He didn't come back for a while, but I got some angry texts. However, I stood my ground about her not being welcome anymore. I told him he was free to stay or move out as he pleases. Most of her friends were on my side. Nearly a week later, my roommate returned home and he was giving me the silent treatment. I figured I'd just leave him alone and let him get over it. Then his girlfriend started calling me and demanding that I give the phone to him because he apparently wasn't speaking to her. I told her to kick rocks and that I wasn't getting in their business anymore. Soon after, my roommate finally started talking to me again. Turns out they got into a huge blowout fight and his girlfriend admitted that she wanted me to flirt with her just to prove that she could pull a lesbian. He told her that was messed up and then broke up with her on the spot. She wouldn't stop blowing up our phones for weeks until I finally blocked her number. It's been a few months and my roommate moved out. We're definitely not as close, but we're still good friends. His ex-girlfriend recently came out as bisexual on social media. How ironic.
So this is how a prank call could lead to a shitty relationship. So this might sound immature, but one day my friend and I thought it'd be funny to make some prank calls, so we called this guy that she knew. The guy we prank called had a really good sense of humor about it, so he decided to keep messaging me after. I really just wanted attention and decided to keep talking to him. And then that's when we FaceTimed. Even though in a previous picture he showed me he didn't have any bruises. 3 days later, when I was outside of a club, he messaged me that he had a brain bleed which led to a stroke and now he has permanent brain damage. Like for part 2.